the people I have met as part of this community. Smart, fun, passionate, with really cool things to say.
Hello, this is John Bernatovich, president and founder of Willory and one of the organizers for DisruptHR Columbus. Super excited to have Michelle Leedy with us today as we continue our video coffee chats. As we cannot, unfortunately, have our DisruptHR event, which was originally scheduled for April 30th. Michelle was one of our original 13 speakers and super excited to have her as part of our community. Instead, we will be doing a virtual roundtable with a number of our speakers, including Michelle, talking about a wide range of topics around remote work and what it's like to adjust to this new normal in COVID. And I'm really looking forward to sharing some content and getting a large group of HR professionals together. For those of you that do not know Michelle, she is the Director of Organizational Design, Development, and Performance Management at Trinity Health. And you can find and learn more about her on her LinkedIn profile. And Michelle, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. So glad to spend this time together this morning, John.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I know when we, when just about 2 months or so ago, we started learning about what the impact could be of COVID and whatnot. I know a big topic around that was there was some change that was going to be coming, right? And to the extent by which the change has happened, I don't think anyone could have truly appreciated and understood that. So I know that throughout the course of our conversation today, I'd love to focus our time on change. And as you being a leader in the community, leader within your organization, leader within all that you do, Michelle, I'm just curious as to like how you've been doing in that regard and kind of your premise and thought process around leading through change.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the word unprecedented we see in the media so much. We might get a little tired of hearing about that word, some of us, and it's so applicable. What's so unique for us, for all of us, is we are on a level playing field in a very unique way in an organization, in that we are all, every single one of us, experiencing this change together at the same time, in the same way, and wiggling through it, right, together. And so for me, I think one of the most important things for myself as a leader and for the leaders I work with is to encourage us to really pause and think about what's going on for us, being crystal clear as much as we can be, so we can be thoughtful about how we are showing up and the seat at the table that we are that we're bringing with us, how people experience us. Because whether we're face to face in person, like we are right now, or a voice on the phone, people feel that. And it's very real and it makes an impact. And I think now more than ever, leaders, and I use the word leaders very broadly. To me, leaders is not, I have a department, I have a group of people that report to me. Leaders, people who influence, people who have impact. This is one of the most important times that you can bring that leadership to those around you in a very intentional way to support that change.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Yeah, and it's sometimes that's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to bring your best energy, but at other times, I think genuineness, when you're having a bad day or a struggle. I just actually had a very heartfelt discussion with a friend of mine a couple of days ago that was it was raw, it was emotional, we were both a bit overwhelmed, and I think we both came out of that feeling a lot better. Although we shared a lot of things that maybe we didn't expect to share in the course of that discussion. And and I think people are struggling, and that's okay. It's okay to share that one of your fellow colleagues, Dr. Melissa Briggs, mentioned it's okay now to get a D grade. It's okay for us to get, for hard charging A performers, A kind of type A personalities, to get a D grade, because it's uncharted, unique times that we've had to adjust and change and adapt to. So.
Absolutely. I think that, being very real, what you just brought up is, I think, a fabulous example of what leadership can look like. And that does mean being vulnerable. It means being authentic. We don't need to fake this, right? So in no way am I suggesting that as leaders, we make everything look shiny and perfect, because we're in very imperfect or at least perfectly imperfect times right now, right? And so how do we package that in a way that we're very real, we're very authentic, and as leaders, we instill confidence. We create shared meaning and understanding that we're in this together. And through all that fog, we support those around us to say, okay, this is our experience now. What are we going to do about it? How do we overcome? How do we get innovative? How do we think differently? Yeah, it's real emotion. You know, particularly in the HR field, I think we have an HR, IT, there's particular areas, strategy. We have a lot of people who are experts on change. We're great at consulting about it. We build plans. We've got, you know, readiness surveys and, you know, impact analysis and communication plans and learning plans. We've got all the tactics. And now this emotion is very real for us as well. We are leaders of change, going through change personally while we lead it. And so that, I mean, that brings a whole new flavor. We have to be gentle with ourselves. We have to give ourselves, you know, that, hey, we're human too. You can be the expert in human. And by the way, it's a very good reminder of what those that we consult with and serve every day might be going through. It's a very sobering wake up when all of a sudden we experience it at the same time. And so, you know, I think what you shared, John, is very relevant to be, we can be vulnerable. And then it's our job, it's our role as leaders to support those around us to say, what is the opportunity for us? What can we learn from this? How do we do this differently? We know we can. We're going to overcome. What does that look like? And that's where the resilience comes. That's where we empower ourselves while we honor the fact that, yeah, we might not be having the best day inside, but we can still move it forward.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Michelle. Great perspective. So I can see that you're relocated remotely into your home office. I know COVID has had an impact on a lot of people in that regard, whether it be fortunate to be working remotely or unfortunately forced to be at home without a job. And then at the same time, you used a word about influence. We're not talking about traditional executives or bosses or owners as leaders, but people that can influence, whether it's a friend, it's a family member, it's a neighbor, it's a colleague. There's that ability to influence. So I'm just curious beyond that. So let's talk about COVID's impact on remote work for people, for you in particular, and then for others you might be working with or know of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the impact, and, you know, what I will share with you is right now, for me, the shift, I am a remote worker and leader. I travel a lot. And when I'm not traveling, I work out of my home office. So the shift really easy for me right now. What's interesting is working with others as they go through the shift, right? So for some of us, we're like, yeah, see, this works. This works great. We can be effective. We can be impactful, regardless of where we're in, where our seat is on a given day and what room that's in with the addresses. We can be just as impactful. Not everyone's had that experience. This is new for a lot of people. We still have a lot of organizations out there where we're, you know, sending out, you know, information on how do you even dial in remotely, right? This is new. And so the fantastic thing about this is I think it opens up for organizations, for leaders, for what working remote can look like. And I think responding and thinking forward around, well, gosh, if it works now, can it work 9 months from now? Can it work 2 years from now? Why not? Right? What can we do to think differently about how we get stuff done and how we tap into incredible talent all over the country that can team up with us to accomplish our goals and our objectives? So for me personally, that's been a lot of fun. You know, and I think on a very personal level, when I think about moving through that experience, whether it be that I've been doing it for a while or now with others who haven't, is being very thoughtful about when I take the pause. And I will tell you with full transparency, I don't always remember. I try very hard to center myself every morning to get in the moment and say, what's going on for me? Because we all have strengths. We all have things that derail us, right? And usually an overused strength is exactly the thing that derails us. It's something that's made us very successful up until a certain time. And then in a different environment with a different audience, all of a sudden, maybe not so much. And so for me, an example is, you know, and I feel I'm an accountable person. People have told me for years I'm a very accountable person. I take pride in that. I like to do what I say I'm going to do and own it and get it through to whatever I said. at whatever cost. And so here's the thing. So, you know, when you're sitting in your office, where you live, where you sleep, where you have a stay at home suggestion, where you don't even leave the property very much, right? All of a sudden, that strength, if I overuse it, could really run me into the ground because I don't stop working, right? And so everybody has something like that. So my suggestion to all of us who are listening to this today is please take that pause, think about those amazing shining strengths you have, and then think about, you know, if you overuse them, if they're a shadow and they're no longer serving you or serving the people that you're here to do the job for, how can you dial that back a little bit so that you are just as impactful as ever?
And I know, as you said, you've had a chance for a while to adjust to this remote work thing. I know for me, I've been working from home for 15 years and 10 years specifically with my firm. It's 100% virtual, which has been somewhat a blessing in many respects in these times, as well as I had a lot of people ask me questions about that recently, more recently than in the past. And it is unique. I think this is what I think is going to happen. You talked about the prediction of like what's 9 months, 2 years from now. I think a lot of organizations that have maybe traditional brick and mortar concepts, the employees have now had a taste of what it's like to work from home. And some of them might think that feels really good, others might not. And I think those that may not, weren't used to it, didn't have the right setup, or maybe they had a lot of other distractions going on at home. I know a lot of people are dealing with kiddos at home and school and having to be a teacher. And so what I think will happen is you'll see more of a push toward this remote work. It'll be a balance. There'll be more people like you, Michelle, that they work for a traditional, organization that has locations, but then a number of employees that may, in essence, call their home base a remote location, their home office. I just see it more and more because I think people become more productive. They may like the work better. And the thing that I feel like is the biggest challenge, in my opinion of it, is, to your point, that pause, that turning off, that physical, like there's something to be said about your office at a building that you can drive to and from. That drive kind of is a stop and a start to your day. Mm-hmm. Whereas I always tell people I've got 15 stairs that are my walk to work and back.
Yeah.
And it takes me, 16 seconds to make those stairs. And that's not enough time to turn things on and off. And the office is always available to me. So I've seen some studies that they've said recently, people feel like they're working probably 25% more. Like they can't take a lunch break. They got to remind themselves to take a lunch break, or put a reminder on their phone to take the dog out or do something for yourself physical. And you have to be way more intentional about that when you're working at home than you do in an office, because it's in an office, there's structure to it. It's like your school day. Like you go to school, you have your first 3 periods and everybody goes to have lunch. So of course you go to have lunch, but it's just you at home doing your work, and you're not necessarily forced to do it with a group. So I think things are going to change. I think there's going to be a lot more remote work in the future. And although I think some people will be happy to go back to a traditional office setting, just for different strokes for different folks is how I would describe it.
Absolutely. And, I think what's really key there is, this gives all of us time to say, what do I need personally? What do I need to be my best self and show up as my best self? Let's say almost every day of the year, right? We're human, almost every day of the year. And if in a remote work environment, if I or whomever feels a certain sense of loss or missing of something, identify it. And then again, how to move through it, how can you establish that again? So if that face-to-face connection, if it's, I took a walk over lunch with the person in 2 offices down from me every day, whatever it was, how can you reinvent that in a new way? And we have to challenge ourselves to think dramatically different. And it's been so fun to see how people are accomplishing that. I got a request the other day, for a virtual walk. I've got Saturday morning, Zoom conversations with friends. People sending me pictures of their new stand-up desk, and because they are sitting all day, or buying ankle weights that they can use under their desk table to move their bodies. And so, that feeling of how can I still achieve what I need to be my best self is, more than anything, I want people to hear that is tangible. We just have to go about it in a little different path.
Yeah. No, I agree. You used the word influence for leaders, and I'm just curious as to, I know we talked a little bit about that, but from that, how do you see that being different now than maybe 2 months ago? Is there any certain things that you've noticed from people that can create that positive or negative influence, obviously in that vein? So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So, actually, when it comes to influence and moving through this change, what I would share is it is way more the same than it is different. Because we might not be sitting physically across a table or beside each other in a room, or whatever we would have been doing, how we influence is very similar in terms of how we establish the relationship, how we show up in it, and knowing when we have something we want to achieve, right? We're influencing because there's some type of movement or motion we want to see happen. We need to understand our audience and the person that we are influencing. What are their needs? What do they want? Do we want the same thing? And then how do we move it together? Now with that, when we are working through this change with people, again, who it might be a phone call, know if this person doesn't like the phone lighting up because you prefer to text. A lot of us do. I text like crazy. That disruption in that kind of a way for everybody isn't welcome. So what's going to be most effective? Some people, as we're influencing, need the time like we are having right now, where we can schedule it. We're very clear, we're very tight on how we're spending the time, and we get to the point quickly and we move on. Others might need more relational time with us. Particularly if during this change they are going through some experiences that leave them feeling a sense of separation, and that can be someone who's been in their career 40 years or someone who's 2 years in. So what I would throw out for us is just think about what you've done in the past and just be extremely laser thoughtful around what those around you need. So as you're influencing, you can tap into their needs, right? It's less about us and it's more about them, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. No, I'm hearing you with that. Like through this, what I'm pulling from your perspective on this, Michelle, is that it's not about you as much as you cannot make it about you. I mean, even though you're a big part of this, you bring that energy to people. Your ability to read and adapt and understand what other people are going through, that empathy, your ability to adapt to different circumstances. You use the word reinvent. And so we've reinvented a lot of things. It's a different, fancier word than maybe change, because people don't like the word change, but we've reinvented a lot of things. Like you said, a Zoom call on the weekend, or a different thing, a virtual walk with a friend. Those are all good things. Those are all really cool outcomes out of this. It's just, us adapting to, after having gone through the first couple of weeks, have been like, okay, like I get what this is. I know what this is about. Here's what I'm going to do as a person, as a parent, as a business owner, as a whatever we are, and adapt and adjust to this new thing. So it's really cool. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. What have you seen, Michelle? Anything in particular you've seen in the Columbus community? This whole concept of change in the Columbus area. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you?
What stands out to me is the resilience and the innovative perspective people have had to keep things moving. And where I've, really been wowed by it is especially with a lot of our small businesses and small business owners in the area. I see just very creative ways that people are leaning into this to serve the community, to say, we are still here for you. And by the way, please still be here for us. And, going way beyond, even curbside pickups and changing the models to just things that we wouldn't have even thought about before. People getting really creative. There's a local business I got an email from, and it wasn't just a meeting. They're like, hey, we're going to do that on this date, order it, buy this product. All of us will get online. We'll go through this process together. I mean, things that never would have occurred. We wouldn't have even thought about, and just really trying on new things for size. I think it's fantastic. I think it says a lot about our business community, and that forward, thinking that we have, that, we're going to get through it together. Be kind, remember, right? I mean, these messages around, think about who we want to be as a community. A lot of our local news sources have done that. ads like you didn't see before. Like, hey, this isn't about our business and our brand. Please take care of yourself. Please be here for each other. And remember, I mean, there's ads that say, be nice, be kind. Well, let's bring more of that forward with us. And I'm just so proud and pleased to see that happening in our community.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And it's interesting, prior economic impacts that I've seen in my life, Great Recession, there was a lot of financial support to large companies that get to term bailout that happened. And I know there's been a tremendous level of support from the community, from the government, from state officials to small businesses. And for someone that owns one, it's been incredibly impactful to me personally, which I'm very thankful for, and I get it, I feel it, and we're trying to innovate and do things different now than we ever had before. And to that point, I like your reinvention. I'm going to steal that one from you, Michelle. That was a really cool word that you used in the course of our discussion. So, speaking of invention, the Disrupt HR concept has been a phenomenal idea that has hit the world by storm and had so much momentum. And unfortunately, in Columbus, there was several stops and starts before we were able to, Willory was able to get the license, and we were delighted to bring it to the community and had such great fever and energy and got a great group of speakers and sponsors and had the date all set. And then obviously COVID-19 happened, so we had to put a pause on that. And we will at some point do the in-person event, just a matter of when. And Disrupt HR is actually corporate is looking at some different things they can be doing to support the community. In the meantime, we're going to keep doing this in Columbus to keep the energy that we had developed. So I'm just curious, Michelle, about your personal experience with Disrupt HR and your enthusiasm and energy about being a part of the original Disrupt HR Columbus.
Oh, I'm so excited to be part of the original HR here in Columbus. This is such a fantastic opportunity for us. In my personal experience, the people I have met as part of this community, smart, fun, passionate, with really cool things to say. You know, we were talking about the reinvention, thinking differently, being innovative, serving and having an impact while we come to the table as our best selves. I've met some fantastic people, so I hope anybody listening to this out there, join us. This is a fun group, and every time I'm around this group, I learn something new.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for being a part of that. You're a big part of that, and we appreciate your support and your time today. So thank you to Michelle Leedy. Please feel free to find her on LinkedIn and connect with her. In addition to that, just one quick reminder again, on April 30th from 4 to 5 o'clock, we will be getting together a group of our speakers from the original 13 and having a virtual roundtable on a wide variety of relevant and timely topics. So please do join us then. For now, this is John Bernatovich from Willory, and thank you to Michelle Leedy for joining us today. And that concludes our video coffee chat.